Bonjour tout le monde, j'espère que vous allez bien aujourd'hui. In this video, we are going to look at how to conjugate reflexive verbs in the passé composé. The learning intention for this video is to be able to recount events in the past with accuracy. Take a quick look at our background image. Can you guess what reflexive verb this image is representing? If you said se disputer, to argue, then you were right. Before we go any further, let's just review what is a reflexive verb. Now, a reflexive verb is one in which the subject performs the action of the verb on themselves. What does this look like? In English, an example of this would be the verb to hurt oneself. So if I said, I hurt myself, then I am in a way performing the action of the verb on myself. Who did I hurt? Myself. The subject is performing the action of the verb on themselves. Now in French, we've got an example, je me suis fait mal, which is our translation of I hurt myself. Now, how can we recognize a reflexive verb in French? Well, in French, all reflexive verbs are preceded by the reflexive pronoun se in the infinitive form. And sometimes this will look like S apostrophe because we will change se into S apostrophe before a verb that begins with a vowel or H. What are some examples of common reflexive verbs in French? Well, there are tons. Here are some very common ones that you should know. Se disputer, to argue. Se fâcher, to get angry. S'entendre, to get along with or s'entendre avec. Se détendre, to relax. S'amuser, to have fun. You'll often hear je me suis bien amusé. I had a really good time. Se dépêcher, to hurry or to hurry up. All right, one more quick piece of revision. What are reflexive pronouns? Reflexive pronouns need to be present when we're conjugating any reflexive verb. Now, the reflexive pronoun is going to match the subject. So we can see here we have je and me always go together. Tu and te go together. Il, elle, and on go with se. Then we have nous, nous, vous, vous, and il, elle, se. So third person plural. And you can see that me translates to myself, te to yourself, se to himself, herself, or oneself, nous to ourselves, vous to yourself or yourselves, depending on whether we're using it in the polite form or in the plural form, and se, themselves. All right, now, how are reflexive verbs conjugated in the passé composé? First thing to note, all reflexive verbs use être as auxiliary. No exceptions. To conjugate a reflexive verb in the passé composé, we're going to need 4 parts, and they're always going to be in this order. So it's going to start with a subject, then a reflexive pronoun, the auxiliary être conjugated in the present tense, and then the past participle of the main verb. Here is an illustration of this. So our verb of the day, je me suis disputé. I had an argument or I fought with. Je is our subject. Me is our reflexive pronoun. Suis is our auxiliary être conjugated in the present tense, and disputer is the past participle. And you can see that for the past participle here, we've got an optional E on the end. Now, if our subject is masculine, we are not going to have this E on the end, this second E on the end. But if the subject is feminine, then we will. We'll talk about this more in a minute. Now, what if we want to negate things? Now, this can get a little bit tricky. until you've got it really stuck in your head. The ne and pas are going to go around the reflexive pronoun and the auxiliary être. So it's going to be subject, je, ne, negation, me, reflexive pronoun, suis, auxiliary être, pas, negation, disputé, past participle. Je ne me suis pas disputé. I didn't fight or I didn't have an argument. So once again, the ne pas are going to go around the reflexive pronoun and the auxiliary être. Now we're going to talk briefly about rules of agreement. Now we have the auxiliary verb être. And as a general rule, we need the past participle of a reflexive verb to agree in number and in gender with the reflexive pronoun. The reflexive pronoun is, of course, matching the subject. So this is what it would look like. Je me suis disputé. We will add an extra E for a feminine subject. Tu t'es disputé. The same thing. Add an E for a feminine subject. Il s'est disputé will not have an extra E on the end. Mais elle s'est disputée will. Nous nous sommes disputés will always have an extra S on the end because it's always going to be plural because there's more than one person, we. It may have two E's if it's already understood in the text that the the group, the we, are all female. Vous vous êtes disputé. Now, this may have an extra E on the end and an extra S on the end, so it depends on the situation. If the vous was a monsieur, a single man, it would be vous vous êtes disputé without the extra E or S. If the vous was a woman, madame, it would be vous vous êtes disputé with the extra E but not the extra S. If it were a group of men and women, it would be vous vous êtes disputé without the extra E but with the extra S. And if the vous was a group of women, it would be vous vous êtes disputé with the extra E and the extra S. So it sounds complicated, but really you just need to follow common sense here. What are we referring back to? Who is the subject? Then we have ils se sont disputés with an extra S because this would be a group of all men or men and women. And elles se sont disputées with an extra E and an extra S because it's more than one person, it's a group, and they're all feminine. Now, there is one exception that we need to note here. When the past participle is followed by a direct object, there is no agreement between the past participle and the reflexive pronoun. Now, the most common example of this is when a reflexive verb is followed by a part of the body. So we know that according to the rules of agreement that we just saw in the previous slide, elle s'est lavée, she washed herself, must have an extra E because the past participle needs to agree with the reflexive pronoun. And of course, the reflexive pronoun is matching the subject. However, in the second example, we have this extra object, les cheveux. Les cheveux in this sentence, hair, is a direct object. Because we have this direct object, which as I've noted is most frequently going to appear as a part of the body, then we will not follow the rules of agreement. So the past participle will not agree with the reflexive pronoun. It will be elle s'est lavé les cheveux. She washed her hair, no agreement. So keep that one in mind. All right, c'est à vous. take a pen and paper and see if you are able to conjugate the verbs in brackets, the reflexive verbs, correctly in the passé composé. Pause the video. Okay, let's have a look. First one. Elle s'est dépêchée pour prendre le bus. She hurried to get the bus. So we have a feminine singular subject. We need dépêcher to have an extra E on the end. Mes parents se sont disputés hier soir. My parents argued last night. Disputer must have an extra S on the end. It's the past participle. It needs to agree with the reflexive pronoun. Se. Mes parents, plural. Elle s'est brossé les dents avant d'aller au lit. She brushed her teeth before going to bed. S'est brossé. So there is no agreement between the past participle and the reflexive pronoun because we have les dents, a part of the body, acting as a direct object. No agreement. And then finally, mes amis et moi, nous nous sommes bien amusés à la plage. My friends and I, we had a great time, a really great time at the beach. Merci et au revoir.